Good morning, everybody. It's really great to see all of you. See some new faces, see some bright, smiling faces. Anyway, it's just really great to see all of you. Thank you for coming today. So my name is Pastor Mike. For those of you who don't know me, my wife and I are the pastor of the church here. I've been here for about 4 years and counting. And today I want to share a sermon about spiritual growth. And I just would like to start off by sharing a story about something that happened to me this week, last couple weeks. It's kind of an interesting story. So I'd say about 2 weeks ago, my wife and I went over to the church from our home, which is 10 feet away, and we were going to do a call every week for other young pastors who are about our age. And we came back to the house, and my son runs out, one of my sons, Nathan. Where's my bike? And, I remember when we walked over to the church, the bike was there in the courtyard, not even outside, but just in the courtyard here. And we came back and I look around and I'm like, where is it? And so, I went out to the parking lot, thought maybe, I don't know, something. I tried to figure out what could have happened to it besides the obvious thing. But bike was gone. Someone had come into our courtyard, taken the bike, and we never saw it again. And my initial reaction was to get really upset, especially because, I could see on my son's face how, distraught he was that his bike was missing. And this was a bike that he had won. We had just gone to one of these neighborhood festivals over at Cheltenham School, and they did a raffle. And our kids love doing raffles because they love winning things, right? What kid doesn't love winning things, right? And he won this bike. It was a girl's bike, oddly enough. It was a pink bike, but he didn't care. He loved it, and he was happy and proud to be able to ride his bike around. Didn't really care that it wasn't a boy's bike. And so when he was so sad, I was really upset. I wasn't so much upset for myself, but I was just kind of like indignant almost, like how could somebody do this to my child? And it was interesting that I actually had the opportunity to find out who this person was. And we, just yesterday actually, and this is kind of unexpected, but it turns out that it was just a couple little kids who have the mischief and bad habit to go around stealing people's stuff. And my initial anger and frustration and kind of righteousness, like that someone should have to pay for this, I recognized was really quite misplaced, and it really wasn't quite the kind of attitude that I should have in this situation. So, and that really dawned on me when we were driving by this little boy. And I knew it was the boy. I knew it because someone else had seen him and so on and so forth. I don't want to get into that. And I realized that he's like 8 or 9 or 10 years old. And, there's a part of me that was like, where are the parents? Whether all these different things kind of come to your mind. But then I just felt really bad. I just felt really bad, and I felt really grateful that, even though we go through challenges and difficulties in our life, that we can have a wholesome family, that we can raise our kids with values that these kids aren't getting for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe they come from a broken home, or maybe their, parents aren't around. I don't know. I have no idea. But, even just now, the kids are so excited to be able to go into their upper level Sunday school class, right? And I could be really proud of that because, we've been trying to really teach our kids the Bible. We got all these Bible storybooks and with all the pictures and now they're kind of graduating from children's Bible stories to really kind of getting a deeper understanding of how they apply to their personal life. And I'm excited for them, and they're excited for it. But that's not an opportunity every child gets. So when I was listening to the song, as I was preparing for the sermon, as I saw the young boy who stole a kid's bike, I remembered and could be reminded that it's really important to be grateful for what we have. It's important to be compassionate, to recognize that there are people in this world who, we have so many blessings compared to in many ways. So let me see here. Where am I? Growing to spiritual maturity. So I want to share a little some from the Bible. Many of you recognize this picture. This is John the Baptist after he baptized Jesus. And after Jesus came up from the baptism, John saw a vision where a dove came down on Jesus and a light came down on Jesus, and he heard the voice, and the voice said, "This is my son for whom I am well pleased." And it's a beautiful story, but the story goes on, and I just want to share a little bit about that as well. Sorry, I'm a little discombobbled here. So what happens in the story is that John baptizes Jesus, and God tells him, "This is my son. Please, this is my son with whom I am pleased." And when we study the divine principle, we understand that from this point on, John was actually supposed to become Jesus' main disciple. He was supposed to be Jesus' most zealous follower, and the person because John had a big foundation. John had lots of followers. His whole life was basically surrounded in miracles, in the circumstances around his birth, with his family, and he prepared a lot of his life just living out in the wilderness, just living off of, according to the Bible, wild honey and locusts, which are kind of like grasshoppers, right? And he had a lot of respect, so much so that people actually went to John and asked him if he was the Messiah that they were waiting for. And so God had actually prepared this whole way. God had prepared a whole plan for Jesus, that when Jesus started his ministry, that John would be kind of the, what is the word? Not like a jumping board. That's not the right word, but like springboard. Thank you. Springboard for Jesus' ministry. Jesus didn't have any followers of his own, but John knew that his way was to prepare the way for the Lord. That's what it says in the Bible, prepare the way for the Lord. And so John, at that time, could have offered his foundation to Jesus, all his followers, all his foundation, all his respect. His father was a high priest, Zechariah. And then through that, it would have been relatively easy for Jesus to be able to win over all of Judaism and all of Israel. But in the Bible, it says that you can see, if you read on from that point in the Bible, you can see many instances where Jesus' followers and John's followers argued over, for example, over whose teacher gave the most baptisms, for example. And there's many, and I'll go over that in a few minutes, there's many points that showed how John and Jesus went separate directions after that point, for reasons which are beyond the scope of this sermon. But what I want to talk about here is not so much that story, but what happened after that. So what happened at this point is that Jesus knew what was going on. Jesus knew that there was a foundation prepared for him that would make it relatively easy for him to be able to accomplish his work. And he watched that foundation crumble in front of him. I think I have something here. Here we go. Let me read this. This is from the Divine Principle. God had directly revealed to John that Jesus was the Messiah, and John bore witness to this revelation. Moreover, he said, "I am the voice of one crying in the wilderness, make straight the way of the Lord," and declared that he was the one who had been sent before Christ. Therefore, John should have realized through his own wisdom that he was the returning Elijah, even if John did not realize this fact. Since God had revealed to him that Jesus was the Messiah, he should have accepted the testimony of Jesus and in obedience proclaimed himself to be Elijah. However, John was ignorant of God's will. He negated Jesus' testimony concerning him, Moreover, he separated from Jesus and went his own way. We can imagine how sorrowful Jesus must have been as these events unfolded. Now, when difficulties come in our life, when the plan that we have for our life starts to crumble in front of us, we get, to a certain degree, get to see what kind of a person we really are. And we can learn a lot from how Jesus reacted to the situation. The first thing he did, at least as far as we can see in the Bible, was that he went into the wilderness. He went into the desert for 40 days, and he fasted, and he prayed. He went to God. And I can imagine in his prayer, he talked to God, and he said, you know, all these things that you prepared for me, they're not working out. Even Jesus couldn't force things to go the way he wanted them to go. Just like in our life, we can't make things happen a way we'd like them to, no matter how much effort we might have put in and how much we might want something to happen that way. So Jesus went to God, and Jesus went into the wilderness. There's a lot of ways in which Jesus could have just gotten really frustrated. You know, this is the action of a person of Christ-like character, right? Jesus. But thinking on my own experience, for example, like when that young boy stole my son's bike, my first reaction wasn't to go to God. It wasn't to have compassion on this young man. It was to get angry and frustrated and think, how can I catch this person? We need to install security cameras in the church. We have one, it's fake, but I was like, I wish it was real. Then I'd have some video, and I could go to the police, and then they could do something, and it's like what, just getting back at people, right? But what Jesus did was a really good example of what a spiritually mature person would do. Because Jesus could have said, well, just put all the blame. Blame God. Didn't you see this coming? Why didn't you prepare somebody better? Or blame John. Or blame John's followers. Or blame circumstances for that difficulty in his life. And get angry, get resentful. But Jesus didn't do that. Jesus' commitment was that he was here for a purpose. He was here to bring God's kingdom. And if that meant that he had to go another way, or if that meant he had to go to the cross, he was committed. Whatever he could do to fulfill God's will for his life, he was going to do it. That's maturity. Now, we have to recognize that we all grow, right? We all become physically adults. But we all don't necessarily grow spiritually to become adults. We all don't necessarily become mature because we happen to be 34 years old or 50 years old or 70 years old. And you can see this because, and I remember Joey's sermon, this point sticks out in my mind, that there's kids who are adults and there's adults who are kids. And just because you're an adult doesn't mean that you have the maturity of an adult. Just because you're a kid doesn't necessarily mean you don't have the maturity of an adult. I don't know. I got a little mixed up there, but you know what I'm saying. You can come to a church, for 30, 40, 50 years of your life and still be an unhappy, unfulfilled person, make bad decisions, not know how to keep commitments. It's very possible that we can be grown up in years, but not necessarily to be grown up in spirit. But there's no blame to pass for that. We all grow up in different circumstances. None of us comes from an easy life situation. We all experience challenges. We all experience difficulties. And we're all in this together. But it doesn't mean that we don't need to recognize where we're at in our life right now and see how can we grow to become more like Jesus, more like a Christ-like character, more like God. So so I want to share this quote also from the Bible. We are not meant to remain as children at the mercy of every chance wind of teaching. Instead, we are meant to hold firmly to the truth and love and to grow up every way into Christ. Now, I was watching a video of one of my favorite pastors, Rick Warren. And this was from about a year ago. He was talking about spiritual growth. And I was just floored by the sermon. This is a guy who moved out to LA with his pregnant wife, with no money, no family, no friends in the area, with a plan to start a church. And he made a plan at that time, Vision 2020, in 1980-something, that by 2020 they were going to have a church with 20,000 people, and all these other things that they were going to do. They were going to start a bunch of other churches, and they were going to help all these things. I'm not going to get into it, but here he is standing up in front of his congregation in 2017. They have over 100,000 people on their list of membership. And this is a church that actively removes people from their membership roll. They have very strict criteria of who is considered a member and who is not considered a member of their church. And he's sharing and he's talking about growth. He's talking about all these different things. And I'm just thinking to myself, I love this guy and I want to be like him, but like the gap between his ability to teach and counsel and speak and help people to grow is on such a level beyond where I'm at that I'm like, I was almost discouraged after the sermon. But it's good. It's good when we surround ourselves with people that are better than us. It keeps us humble. It helps us to recognize that I don't have all my stuff together. There's more to grow. There's more to learn. I need to become a better person. And so for that, I really appreciated it, even though I was a little depressed afterwards. But I was thinking about Jesus' time in the wilderness, and I was thinking about how it's interesting how many times the number 40 comes up in the Bible. It's like, how did Jesus know that he should go into the wilderness for 40 days? Was that just a revelation that he had? Or did he know intuitively that after 40 days he should leave? Or he should stop fasting? I don't know. Maybe there was, we don't know, because that's not written in the Bible. But what is interesting in the Bible is that the number 40 comes up all the time. All the time, number 40. If you study the principle and you study the parallels in history, you recognize that even historically, the number 40 and the number 400 comes up over and over and over again, even in modern history. But in the Bible, you see 40 days of spying in the wilderness, the 40 days of the flood judgment, Moses fasting 40 days twice, Moses going into exile for 40 years after he killed the slave driver. 40 years of wandering in the wilderness. Before Moses did a lot of 40. He must have gotten really tired of it because he had to also, after the Israelites went into Canaan, then he had to wander the wilderness for 40 years. And then anyway, it was just a lot in his life. 40-year reign of King Saul, King David, and King Solomon, Elijah's 40-day fast, and so on and so forth. We see 40 over and over and again. And it's interesting that when Rick Warren was sharing his sermon about spiritual growth, he was getting ready to do a 40-day campaign. It's becoming you would even meet people now who do 40-day stuff regularly. People who do 40-day fasts, people do 40-day initiatives, because it's become well known that in order to develop a habit, you need to do it for a certain period of time. I believe it's 6 weeks, which is almost 40 days, right? Might as well make it 40 days. But his initiative was every year they do a 40-day spiritual growth campaign. Some years it's going out and serving the community. Some years it's 40 years. Let's get together in they have 8,000 small groups in their church. It's crazy. So every 40 days of reading, 40 years of praying, 40 years of serving, 40 days of serving. Every year they make a concerted effort to do 40-day focused attention on some area of spiritual growth. Because he also recognizes that not everybody grows the same way. Not everyone grows through reading. Not everyone grows through, frankly, I think most people don't actually grow through coming and sitting to someone talk. What is it? 95% of what you hear, you forget within 36 hours or something like that, 48 hours. Anyway. And people grow and learn in different ways, including through action. Sometimes you learn by doing, right? Sometimes you learn by listening. Sometimes you learn by modeling. There's many, many different ways to learn. So he's come up with different ways every year to help the community grow, to help people grow in maturity. And it's interesting how, when I look back at my own life, I remember back in, I don't know what year it was, but I was 21 or 22 years old. So 13 years ago, something like that. I was living here in Colorado, and my dad was the pastor. I guess must be doing Sunday school today. And I was really in a rut, and I wasn't really sure what I should do with my life. And because I grew up in this faith, one of the things I knew that I should do is I should do what we call a condition. 40 days, I should offer something, a prayer or an act of service, do something that helped me to model a more godly, Christ-like character through action, whether it's pray, meditate, read, serve, or a combination of those things. And I decided to do a 40-day condition. I don't remember much of it, but I do remember that I prayed every day, and I asked God, what should I do with my life? And because I really had no idea. Me and Adonia were already married and blessed at that time, and so I knew who my lifelong wife was going to be, but I didn't know anything else about what I wanted to do. I was going to school, but it was really casual. I was just taking a few classes. And I didn't really know what I wanted to invest my heart and soul into. But I knew that God surely has something for me. So I did a 40-day condition. And a 40-day condition ended, and then soon after that, an opportunity opened up for me to join up with this school that Jerry was running at that time. And I moved out, and I moved in, and pretty soon I found myself living in California. And I really believe that it was that time and that effort to reach out to God and ask God and to fulfill that commitment of 40 days. Because for some reason, fulfilling that period of time is very important. It's like making a commitment to God, like, I'm going to do this for 40 days or 10 days or 21 days or whatever. To make that commitment and to follow through with that commitment. Something about it. It's meaningful to God. It moves God or allows God to come into your life in some way. And it was amazing looking back on it now, how so soon afterwards, like just a couple months, I found myself moving across country, living a completely different life. It wasn't the life I envisioned, but it was a life that I needed. And it was the life that put me on the course that we could be here today. I really believe that. I believe that in some ways, us being here, well, of course we don't know what the rest of our life has in store for us, but us being here today in some ways is an answer and a culmination to that prayer and that 40 days of prayer that we did all those years ago, that I did all those years ago. So in some ways, it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly why God needs periods of time to work in our life. But for whatever reason, he does. And it's a really important lesson that even Jesus, when his first foundation fell apart, went that course. He went to God. And when you fast, I know some people who fasted for 40 days. It's kind of a life or death kind of thing. Like you could die by fasting for 40 days. And it's really a type of thing that people do. Some people do it for their health. It's really kind of interesting. But people who do it for religious purposes, many times it's like, I really want to find God. I really want to find answers in my life. I want to switch gears a little bit here. Oh, where am I here? Okay, let's see. Okay. Talked about that. Okay, here we go. Money. So I have brought some money with me today. I'm not talking about tithing. I am talking about discernment. So some of you may have heard, but when the government trains people to spot counterfeit money, federal agents, they're taught to not look for, they don't give them a bunch of counterfeit money and say, hey, look at this counterfeit money and study it and try to figure out if you can figure out how this is different than real money. What they do is they teach them, they make them spend time with real money. And they tell them to feel the money. And when you feel the money, you get a sense for the texture, right? Because money is not printed on paper. It's like a cotton blend, cotton and paper. And and then you have to, and you can feel where there's raised ink on the bill. And then you look at it from different angles, right? You look at the paper from different angles, and you can see that, it's red, now it's green. And then you look at it through the light, and this one doesn't. Oh, this one does have. They have the little face inside the bill, right? And you have to spend a lot of time scrutinizing the money, so that you get a really good sense of what the real deal is. And then, when you're given counterfeit money, then you can automatically identify that money is not real. Like, you don't even have to look or try. I mean, you might have to, depending on how good the fake is, right? But many times you can just tell by looking at it. Many times you can just tell by feeling it. Many times you can just tell by the obvious signs or maybe the not so obvious signs. And this is how they teach federal agents to spot counterfeit money. I researched this online. It's really quite interesting. And I was thinking, this is kind of like our faith in some ways. Because we all, I mean, maybe maybe many of you don't carry around actual paper money anymore. I know I don't so much. But I think that everybody at some point has had some money in their pocket, right? You put in your pocket, you put in your wallet, your purse, and you pay for things with it. But I think that just like our faith, we haven't always taken it out and really looked at it and felt it and looked at it from different angles and looked through it and really tried to discover everything that there is to discover about it. It can just be like, oh, this is just something that I have. And then sometimes when desperation or some difficult experience comes along in our life, then we reach out to God for some kind of deeper understanding or some kind of answers or something like that, not recognizing that it's through understanding our faith and how to put our faith into action in the decisions that we make in everyday life that we can experience God in a more deep and full way. What Jesus did when he went into 40 days of prayer and fasting in the wilderness was just an extension of the rest of his life. It was an extension of his habit. Every time something would happen in his life, I imagine that Jesus went to God. It wasn't just because his foundation fell apart, but because that was the way that Jesus lived. And that's why we can say that Jesus was a godly person. That's why we can say that people are a godly person. This is character, right? Our character is our way of living life, our habits, so to speak. If you want to call yourself a kind person, but you're only kind half the time, like if you're in a good mood that day, you can't really call yourself a kind person. When you call yourself a kind person, you're saying, this is my character, this is the way that I act, no matter what. And as religious people, we're called to have that kind of a character too. No matter what kind of situation comes in our life, to model like what Jesus did, to go to God, to develop that kind of a character in our life, that even if somebody comes along and steals your kid's bike, even if someone comes along and treats you badly, that we still express the same character, the same love, the same compassion, the same forgiveness and patience that we would give to somebody that we love dearly and would never treat badly. But we have to grow into that. It doesn't always, ever, just come naturally all the time. We have to grow into it. We have to develop ourselves to the point where we can act that way and that we can embody that kind of a character. Like the money, we need to take the time to look at it ourselves and our faith. So that when a situation comes along in our life, we don't have to ask how we should react to that situation. We don't have to ask how we should treat that person. We can't be people who are just living based on our emotions. Because, I feel this way, so I'm going to act this way, or I feel that way, so I'm going to act that way. Emotions and acting on our emotions and living our life according to our emotions is probably the worst way that we can live our life, because our emotions change from day to day, from minute to minute. You have a great morning, you wake up and you feel great, and then by the end of the day, you feel depressed. Or not, I don't know. Maybe some of you are more consistent. We have to live our life based on principles and commitments. And this is the way that Jesus taught us. This is the way that God is trying to teach us, even to this day. So for myself, I've really recognized that, Adonia and I have a lot of ambition in terms of we really want to create an amazing church. And I think that by default, we will grow in numbers. I don't care about the numbers. I care about creating an amazing church and an amazing experience, an amazing value. I believe that numbers would just come automatically when we do that. But I have to ask myself, am I amazing value? Are we amazing value? Maybe we provide some value, but do we provide the kind of value are we where we need to be? And I absolutely believe that no, we are not. Not that it's bad. We just want to be more, so that our community can be more. We can't help each other to grow if we're stuck down here. We all, do you know the phrase? A rising tide lifts all ships? I don't even know if that's the right wording, but it is. Thank you. Great. So we want to be the rising tide, right? So for myself, I actually really came to the realization that I need to study the Bible more. This is a really great realization for me. I was actually really inspired when I finally came to this understanding that. And it's not like I've never studied the Bible before. I went to a Catholic school for my first 8 years of schooling, and I went to a Christian school, Protestant school for high school. I memorized Bible verses and whole books of the Bible, and it's not like I've grown up listening to my dad's lectures all my life, so it's not like I'm a stranger to the Bible, but I haven't spent the kind of time that I really want to invest into really delving into it. And so I've decided that I'm going to make my own 40-day condition. It's been a while. So so I've actually decided that I would like to study the Bible. I'm going to start reading the New Testament. And I'm really, really excited about it because I really feel like it's going to help our ministry and it's going to help me to grow. I'm still going to keep reading all myself. I'm reading a book right now called 360 Degree Leader by John Maxwell. And I love these books because they teach, like this book, for example, is teaching me that you don't have to be at the top of an organization to influence or to create change. You can be in the middle, but it requires the ability to influence, because being at the top can be kind of tempting because you can just make orders and you can just tell people what to do and you can feel like you're making changes happen. And to some degree it's true. But when you're in the middle, when you're not really at the top but you're not at the bottom, you really have to learn the skill of influence. Obviously, good influence. And so I'm still going to continue reading those books because they're so valuable, but I realize I want to delve more into God's Word as well. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to start tomorrow. And, because 40 seems to be coming up a lot for me, I feel like 40 is going to be, obviously, got to be the number. And if any of you would like to participate with me, I would love to do that with you. Probably not actually in person, but if any of you feel the calling to grow and to take another step in your life, or maybe some of you are in a situation where you're kind of wondering, what's the next step in your life? There's no shame in that. But maybe you're wondering, well, what's the next step for me? So we go to God. We go to God and we ask God, what is my step? And I don't know what to say. My experience is that God answers those prayers. So I'm going to start with the New Testament. If you want to start with me, you can read the Bible, you can read the Divine Principle, or something. But that would really be wonderful. That would make me very happy. But this is really something that I want to do, and as many of you would like to do with me, I would love that. And it's through doing these kind of things, through reading, through praying, through dissecting, meditating on, putting into practice God's Word, that we grow, that we become deeper people, that we become people that more reflect God's character. And when this difficult decision comes in our life, when the difficult circumstance comes our way, when we don't know exactly what to think or how to feel about it, then we know because we've been in God's Word. We know how Jesus would have acted. We know how godly people would have acted. We know how God would want us to deal with this situation. If we're not in God's Word, then we just deal with it the way that we feel like we should deal with it, which isn't always right. It's oftentimes, many times, not right. If I had just followed my emotions about the young boy who stole the bike, then what good would have come of that? Now my hope is next time I see him, I'm hoping to be able to sit down with him and have a talk with him about how he's going to get caught sooner or later, and he's got to, But even just to have to sit down with an 8-year-old and have that conversation, it's sad. But there are many people in this world who have that kind of difficulty. So that's what I want to share with you today. Thank you so much for listening. Please join me in prayer. Good morning, our most beloved Heavenly Parent. I'm so grateful for this day. I'm grateful that we can have this day where all our families and brothers and sisters, we can come together on this Sunday morning. We can hear a message, and I really pray that this message could be inspired by you and could stir something in our hearts and our conscience and our original mind to really help us to recognize that we are all called to be more like Jesus, to be more like you, to practice compassion, to practice patience, and to live our life according to purpose, to commitments, and to principles, not our emotions. I pray, Heavenly Parent, that we can create the circumstances and the environment in our life that you can be a part of it, that you can be living with us in a skin-to-skin relationship, Heavenly Parent, that we can live with you day by day, not just to say that we believe in you, not just to say that, I'm a religious person, but to live our life according to that lifestyle and according to the way that you want us to live. And I pray that we can always be seeking and searching for your guidance in our life, Heavenly Parent. It's many times so difficult to know what we should be doing and how we should be living our life. It's many times easy to feel like my life doesn't have value. But we know that's not true. And I pray that as a community that we can reach out to you all the time, in our good times, in our sad times, in our questioning times, that we can develop that closer relationship, and more importantly, that we can act and model that in our character and in our actions and the way we interact with people and the way we live our lives every day of our life. Heavenly Parent, I'm grateful for all the people who are here. I'm grateful for the vision that we have for the future. I'm grateful for our founders who have helped us to get to where we are today. I pray that we can really take the baton and really take it, forward much further than we even imagined could be possible. With your help, I believe that we can, Heavenly Parent. And I thank you for this day, and I thank you for this time together. And I offer this prayer in our names as blessed families, blessed Central families. Amen and Aju. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Pastor Mike. That was a really beautiful message, wasn't it? That what do we do when things don't go our way? Do we do things our way, or do we do things God's way? I will say that after that happened with Nathan, I actually put a little message on nextdoor.com and just kind of asking, if anybody sees this bike, let us know. And actually the next morning somebody came by and brought a bike for him, and then somebody else messaged me later that day and said, I'll buy him a bike. So actually there's been a lot of love and blessing coming through that situation for him too. So don't worry about Nathan, he's fine. Now we're going to have our tithe and our offering. So if you haven't yet had a chance to put a donation in the basket, our welcome ministry will be bringing it forward, the Mokalos. And if you'd like, you can place your envelope, or also the special donation for anniversary of Reverend Moon's passing. You can put it in there, and then we'll have our offering prayer over it. So we'll have our reflection music. You can just take this time to reflect on the message, prepare your offering, and then we'll continue. We have such exciting announcements this week. I can't wait to share them. I'm going to just start off by actually having David come up and share a quick thing about his youth outing.
Hey, good morning. This is for all the parents with children that are 9 years old and older. If your child is turning 9 in this school year in 2019, or is currently 9 years old, they're more than welcome to start coming to my class. And next week, we're going to be meeting. We're going to do our end of the summer camp out. So school is starting, and as school starts, so does our curriculum of going into more internal content, and we're getting out of the summer season. And so we're doing our end of the year camp out. We're meeting here at 3 o'clock p.m. on Saturday, and we're going to be leaving around 3 to 4 o'clock, and then returning on Sunday for lunch. Okay, so if one of your kids is in my class, 3 to 4 o'clock p.m. on Saturday, next Saturday. And I will call you for RSVPs later, but I just wanted to get the announcement out to everybody. Okay, thank you.
My boys up here are turning 9 next month, and they can't believe their luck that they squeaked into this. So, okay, more announcements. We have upcoming. This is the upcoming 6th anniversary of Reverend Moon's passing. It's a big the first 3 years are really a time of mourning, a time to really give our heart. And now is really a time of celebration. Every year at the time of his passing, we have a huge celebration. There's a big one in Korea, lots of ones all around the world. And if you would like to give a donation to support all of these celebrations and activities, this is just something that you can specify on your donation envelope in the pews in front of you, and we'll be collecting those today, so you can put that in there. And we're going to celebrate here as well. Today, after service, Pastor Mike will be giving his Who Are We presentation. This is a brief introduction to our faith, our history, our vision, and our future. And this Sunday, he has some time constraints, so he's going to be giving it right after service. So if you haven't participated and you'd like to, we are giving you leave to cut to the front of the lunch line. Just say, I'm going to the presentation, okay? We want everybody who wants to be there to be able to receive the full thing. So that will be right after service in the French ministry room, which is the room on the other side of the cafe over there. Just a couple of days ago, I don't know if some of you know Daniel and Teresa Chimes. They had a little baby named Sophie over in England, and so we welcome her into our family. Even though she's far away, I'm sure we'll all meet her soon. And this is such a last-minute announcement, but just about an hour ago, Camille and Ule Evanson had their baby over in Grand Junction, so congratulations. His name is Barrett Evanson, so we're looking forward to meeting him too. Every Thursday at 7 p.m., Dr. Hendrick has a Bible study where we can go more deeply into the Bible and understanding the practical meaning of it and uncovering the secrets of it. So let's dig in together, and if you'd like to join it, we'll be here in the cafe at 7 on Thursday. Also, we are looking for somebody to help out with our video recordings on Sunday. You don't have to have a lot of experience. You don't have to know how to do video editing. You're not going to be doing that. All you're going to be doing is videoing what's happening on Sundays, and Mike can show you exactly how to do that. But if you would think that you would like to help or volunteer or support in this way, please let Mike know. He can show you what to do. But we would like it to be somebody who expects to be here pretty consistently. So let that sink in your heart, and if you feel called, let Mike know. We have this, the first one's already passing, but if you would like to attend a Divine Principle retreat, there are 4-day and 7-day ones upcoming. This is such a great experience to really just get out of your everyday life, put yourself in an environment where you can really soak in God's love and God's words. And we shared a picture today. This is where it happens. This is in our International Peace Education Center in Las Vegas. You get to go here, stay here, and it's just a beautiful environment to refresh your soul. And we can support you in going. So if you'd like to go, just let us know. And this Sunday, the Martinez families are cooking and cleaning, so be sure you thank them after service. And next Sunday is going to be a potluck Sunday. So everybody please bring a delicious dish to share with all of our families. It doesn't have to be huge, but make something that you would like to share. And we also need different volunteers help with cleaning. So if everybody could just pitch in a little bit, we'd really appreciate that. All right, those are all of our announcements for this week. We're going to transition into our service, and with that, we'll have a music. Oh, sorry. You kids have been so good, I hardly noticed you were here. All right, kids can be dismissed for Sunday school. Before our offering song, I'd like to have Krista come up. She just came back from our National Women's Federation retreat in Atlanta, Georgia, and she's going to share a little bit about her experience. And let's give her a big round of applause and welcome her up.
Thank you, everyone. I'll keep it pretty brief because I know we've got a lot going on today. But so I was fortunate to be able to go to the Women's Federation for World Peace retreat, the 2018 retreat, focusing on leadership and leadership building, and it was actually in Hampton, Georgia, in a beautiful property called the Kelvin Center. So the theme of the retreat was uplift, transform, and collaborate. And it was really a wonderful opportunity to experience and do those things. But also, I felt that it was really focused on showing us the vision of Women's Federation for World Peace and helping us understand the goals and the forward momentum of WFWP and the strategies and skills for how we can, as a organization, grow and move in that direction. So I know that WFWP has been around for a long time, and most of you have heard about it and understand a little bit about it, but I think that they're really working to sort of rebrand themselves as an organization and find out how they can serve their communities individually throughout their chapters in the United States, and also what we can do to support our international projects and international chapters. So something that really called to me in particular was the presentations on the Schools of Africa, which I think most of you might have heard about, but WFWP started 9 schools in 8 different countries in Africa, and they continue to support them. So they were started in 1994, and our international chapters, but mainly the United States and Japan, are the countries that still continue to support these schools and help them function. So there are 4 lower-income kids in these nine countries, and then also there's 2 technical institutes, one in Senegal and one in Rwanda, that are focused on giving women skills that they can use professionally in jobs. So it's a really worthy, important cause that I think has become so familiar for a lot of people that they're kind of out of touch with the heart of how incredible this work is, that we're actually able to do this. So yeah, that was something that really touched me, and they're really working on having more things to show the people who've donated and supported for a long time, so more pictures, more statistics on how many students have graduated and what they've been able to do there. This is a picture of some girls in a school in Mozambique that we have, and I think that's a really precious picture, so I just wanted to share. So since 2001, WFWP USA has sent over $431,000 to the Schools of Africa. But actually this year, we're really behind schedule, so yeah, just that I was thinking about that a lot and might try to do some corporate sponsorship funding, and I know that our communities are tired of giving money, so I'll try to think of creative ways to raise money, so just wanted to share that. And yeah, then we did some African dancing afterwards, which was a lot of fun, and kind of getting in touch with that project. And finally, we did the Bridge of Peace on the last day, which many of you know is a beautiful ceremony about reconciliation and bringing together people with really different experiences and even ancestral and collective differences that are really founded in a lot of pain and a lot of historical wrongs that have been committed. So it was a really beautiful sharing between Angelica Sully, our president, who's from Germany, and then Juanita Pierre-Louise, who's one of our reverends, who's from Georgia, an African-American sister, and they shared about the importance of reconciliation and how deep, especially racial differences in this country are still, and between Europe and Africa, between black and white in the United States, and really all over the world there's these really deep differences, and the Bridge of Peace is an opportunity for people to come together. So my Bridge of Peace partner was Marina Lepre, who some of you might know, but yeah, that was a lot of fun. We're sisters now. So overall it was a lot of good times. There's some of the ladies having a good time. And yeah, thank you all for listening, and I hope that Women's Federation can be in your hearts and minds as we continue to grow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Krista. I'm really happy that you were able to go, and also really excited to see how Women's Federation develops and, like you said, serves the communities locally. It's very exciting.